The narrative of David and Goliath is a timeless tale originating from ancient texts, often interpreted as the quintessential story of overcoming insurmountable odds. At its core, it describes the battle between a young shepherd, David, and a giant warrior, Goliath, symbolizing an underdog's triumph against a formidable adversary. This narrative is significant because it transcends its historical and religious roots to represent the universal theme of courage, faith, and skill prevailing over brute strength and intimidation. The story serves as a metaphor for countless scenarios where the perceived weaker party faces a seemingly invincible opponent, only to achieve an unexpected victory. In our contemporary world, the David and Goliath metaphor finds relevance in various contexts. For example, in the business realm, startups often go up against established corporations. Despite limited resources and experience, some manage to disrupt industries, much like David did with his sling. Companies like Airbnb and Uber started with humble beginnings, but challenged and changed the travel and transport sectors dominated by giants. Another illustration is seen in social movements, where grassroots organizations take on larger, more powerful entities to fight for human rights and environmental justice, showcasing resilience and strategic acumen over scale and power. Opinions supporting this idea often highlight how the narrative encourages resilience, strategic thinking, and innovation. Many believe it fosters hope and motivation, suggesting that with the right approach, the underdog can defy the odds and emerge victorious. However, this interpretation isn't universally accepted. Critics argue the story may oversimplify the complex dynamics of resource asymmetry, giving false hope when the characteristics of Goliath's immense power are downplayed or misunderstood. Potential controversies around this narrative stem from its simplistic dichotomy of good versus evil, where nuanced situations might not fit into such clear categories. Critics may also point out that the tale ignores systemic advantages that favored Goliath, implying that inherent flaws or overconfidence led to his downfall. This narrative interconnects with other themes such as strategy, psychological warfare, and the role of belief in achieving outcomes. The emphasis on innovation and unconventional tactics invites audiences to explore how these concepts can apply to varied situations beyond battlefields, influencing interpretations of leadership and competition in broader contexts. By delving into the untold truths behind this story, we uncover how deeply it resonates with modern struggles and triumphs, offering insights that extend beyond its historical confines. The story of David and Goliath, found in the biblical text of 1 Samuel, is not just a tale of an underdog triumphing against a giant. It's deeply embedded in a rich historical and cultural tapestry that sheds light on its profound meaning. Understanding the historical and cultural context of this story is essential to unraveling the untold truths behind it. During the time of David and Goliath, around the 11th century BCE, the Israelites and Philistines were two prominent groups in the ancient Near East. This period was marked by frequent conflicts over territory and influence. The Philistines, often depicted as a technologically advanced and formidable threat, were in constant opposition to the Israelites. This broader context highlights the significance of the story. It symbolizes not only a physical confrontation, but also the struggle between two cultures and belief systems. David's victory is not merely physical, but deeply symbolic. It reflects the triumph of the underdog and hints at the divine favor that Israelites believed was bestowed upon them. This narrative holds substantial importance for the main topic, as it underscores the deeper psychological and theological truths embedded in the story, truths about faith, resourcefulness, and divine providence. Real-world applications of this understanding include the inspiration drawn from underdog stories in various fields, such as sports and business, where smaller, less favored entities rise to success against dominant giants. Another example is the use of the David and Goliath archetype in social and political movements, where marginalized groups stand up against powerful institutions, resonating with the themes of agency and resilience. Supporters of this perspective argue that recognizing the historical and cultural layers adds depth to what might otherwise seem like a simplistic tale. However, challenges arise from alternative viewpoints, including those who see the story as purely allegorical, or historians who question the literal accuracy of the events described. Additionally, some modern interpretations critique the story for perpetuating conflict narratives. Understanding the historical and cultural backdrop of David and Goliath illuminates other aspects of the main topic by connecting the spiritual and moral lessons of the story to its real-world implications. This connection prompts us to consider how power dynamics and cultural clashes have shaped human history and continue to influence contemporary society. The symbolism and interpretation of characters in the story of David and Goliath provide a rich tapestry that goes beyond the simple tale of an underdog victory. At its core, this concept involves examining the deeper meanings embedded in the characters of David and Goliath, symbolizing themes of faith, courage, and the triumph of intellect over brute force. David, a young shepherd armed only with a sling, and his unwavering faith represents the power of inner strength and divine support. Goliath, on the other hand, embodies arrogance and over-reliance on physical might. This symbolic framework adds layers of interpretation to the narrative, making it not just a story of combat, but a profound reflection on human virtues and vices. The significance of this symbolism within the broader topic of the untold truths behind David and Goliath is crucial. It challenges the simplistic portrayal of David as merely lucky or miraculous in his victory. Instead, it invites audiences to consider the importance of insight, resilience, and divine intervention. This interpretation enriches our understanding of the biblical text and its enduring lessons for navigating modern challenges. Take, for instance, the business world where entrepreneurs often face Goliath-sized corporations. Startups like David frequently leverage innovation, agility, and new technologies to compete with well-established giants. Another example is in social justice movements, where seemingly powerless individuals or groups confront systemic injustices. Their victories often hinge on strategy, moral authority, and the mobilization of public support rather than brute strength. Scholars and theologians who support this symbolic interpretation argue that the story teaches universal lessons about the necessary qualities to overcome formidable odds. However, this perspective isn't without its challenges. Some critics suggest that over-symbolizing the characters might overshadow the historical and literal elements of the story. Others argue it risks simplifying complex socio-political contexts of the time into mere allegory. Ultimately, the symbolism of David and Goliath intertwines with other aspects of the narrative, such as moral integrity, faith in a higher power, and the courage to face insurmountable odds. This connection deepens our insights into the story's broader themes, allowing it to resonate across cultures and eras. By viewing David and Goliath through the lens of symbolism, audiences are encouraged to look beyond the surface, revealing a story rich with implication and relevance. Reflecting the timeless struggle against adversity. The heading Modern Insights into the David and Goliath Encounter presents an exploration of contemporary interpretations and implications of the biblical narrative of David and Goliath. This concept examines how modern perspectives can shed new light on this ancient story, exposing deeper truths that extend beyond the traditional interpretation of an underdog defeating a giant purely through divine intervention and sheer luck. This story is often seen as a metaphor for overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. But modern insights delve deeper, exploring underlying themes such as strategy, psychology, and the power of perception. The significance of modern insights into this encounter lies in their ability to offer fresh perspectives that resonate with current societal, psychological, and strategic paradigms. By re-evaluating David's victory through contemporary lenses, we learn more about human resilience, the use of intellect over brute force, and the impact of asymmetric confrontations. This enriches our understanding of the underdog narrative and allows us to apply these lessons in various real-world scenarios. For example, the business world frequently references the concept of David versus Goliath. Goliath when discussing startups challenging industry giants. Companies like Netflix and Tesla illustrate how innovation and vision can disrupt traditional power structures, similar to how David's unconventional approach with a sling overcame Goliath's brute strength. Additionally, political movements often utilize this framework. Civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela harness the power of moral strength and strategy to challenge entrenched systems of power. Opinions supporting the idea of revisiting the David and Goliath story emphasize the value of strategic thinking and adaptability. Critics, however, may argue that this narrative oversimplifies complex societal issues or romanticizes the notion of the underdog, potentially minimizing the systemic factors that give rise to uneven struggles. Challenges to this concept include the risk of over-romanticizing the underdog story and ignoring the socio-economic realities that make such triumphs rare exceptions rather than the rule. Additionally, alternative viewpoints suggest that the story primarily conveys a religious or moral lesson about faith rather than strategy or innovation, and modern interpretations may stray from the original intent. The exploration of modern insights into the David and Goliath encounter connects to broader discussions on leadership, innovation, and perseverance. By understanding the dynamic between perceived weakness and true strength, we can draw lessons that influence individual, organizational, and societal growth, leading to a richer appreciation of this timeless tale.